December 7th, 1941. A date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by the forces of Japan. And in 2001, our senses were ruthlessly beat up by the...
Black Harbor?
By Black Harbor. By Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck in Pearl Harbor. No, just kidding. Actually, we're going to be doing war movies today. And before we begin, and after that inauspicious beginning anyway, I probably should restart, but I'm not going to.
Hey, Jason's here.
Oh, Jason's here. But I'm not going to. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to soldier on, because this is a war movie. This is what we do. We soldier on even though we fuck up.
You keep soldiering on. I'm going to marine on, and I'll be there before you.
Speaking of that.
Hold on. I just want to tell them about the crappy camera work.
All right, tell them about your cameras.
Okay. I do actually own a small media company, and usually we have the good cameras here today, but I have a big shoot tomorrow, and all my good gear is packed away, and I honestly didn't feel like packing it all up, bringing it down here.
This isn't a big shoot? This isn't important to you? Oh my God!
Sure.
I am so...
Sure, we'll go with that. This is
brought to you by KWB Media.
But anyway, so if the cameras look a little weird or the audio isn't as good as normal, it's because I cheaped out this time. And if it really sucks, I promise I won't do it again. But anyway, so go ahead, Jason. You were about to say something very important.
Very important, because we are doing military.
Oh. We got a surprise.
So you brought...
In honor of our military movie theme today...
I have to hand this over to our official military.
To our official military Marine. What does it got? What's it got? I can't see it! USMC, never retired, always a Marine. Very nice.
There you go.
Semper Fi!
Hoorah.
Hoorah.
Oh, it fits me too.
Nice. Well done, Jason. Well done. Anyway, so our theme today is war movies. We are going to be talking about the 1970s classic Tora Tora Tora. And we're going to juxtapose that with the 2001 Michael Bay Pearl Harbor movie. And we are also going to be talking about the... what was the original Midway movie? What year was that, guys?
1970.
The 1970 Midway movie, and we're going to be talking about the latest one, which was 2019, wasn't it?
2019, I believe, yes. Yeah.
Anyway, so I didn't. I'm gonna let you guys know right ahead of time. I didn't do my homework on the Midway stuff. So I'm gonna be all over the Pearl Harbor stuff, and I'm just gonna let these two brainiacs probably spearhead the Midway stuff.
Well, the good thing is they all kind of intertwine with each other. So
yeah, or they all go like the Midway movies basically even show part of Pearl Harbor and go into the Doolittle raid, and then go into the stuff about Midway,
which was amazing. Ben Affleck was everywhere in that.
He was there. I'm surprised they didn't show him attacking Midway.
I think Ben Affleck actually dropped the bomb on Nagasaki too.
He was just going back and forth.
I was one busy guy. I hope he got hazard pay.
He was there during D-Day, and he went back. He was just crossing the pond.
But first, I'd like to. So again, because I did my homework on Pearl Harbor, we're going to start with the Tora 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 in Pearl Harbor. First thing I would say is the 1970 Tora 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 still had a budget of about $25 million, which in those days
a lot.
That's a lot of money.
Still kind of make it kind of like blockbuster-esque. But unlike the Michael Bay version,
blockbuster, Will Smith wasn't in it.
But unlike the Michael Bay version, I think Tora 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 tried so hard to be spot on, accurate historically. Yeah. That it almost had a documentary feel at times.
Yes, it did. You're correct. But they also used a lot of footage from various war footage too. A lot of real planes. That's the thing about the older movies. They actually used, the plane. The actual planes were in the
One of the
movie.
reasons why it was probably a $20 million budget is because they were blowing up planes. I mean, that was amazing with the stunts. Back then, with planes crashing into, the carriers or wherever they're crashing, and the stunt people, I give it up to them because that was amazing. There's props flying by them and people dodging little pieces of and explosions, and they were actually, looks like it was actually.
Well, they used. You could totally tell when they were doing the ground stuff and planes are hitting. They were using prop planes.
Yeah.
But when they were in the air using real planes,
Yes.
and they were getting shot down, you'd see them do like a tumble and some smoke. They'd never show them actually hitting the water.
Yeah,
but they did show a lot of explosions on decks and stuff like that, which were probably like prop planes built up.
Yeah.
But the ones that they flew were actual Zeros and actual P-40s, and it was crazy. They actually flew they had all redone planes, and they were up in the air with them. But and when they got shot down, they'd have a little puff of smoke, and it wouldn't blow up like they show the other ones, like hitting the water. You'd never see them hit the water.
Yeah.
They kind of just cut away before they just took off.
But I mean, Tora Tora Tora, I think did. It was kind of fascinating from we're all fans of history.
Big fan of history.
One of the main reasons we decided to do this subject. I think Tora 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 took such an interesting deep dive. Like, I think it went deeper than even certain documentaries go, insofar as it really started to show even the minutia of the bureaucracy that both armies had to deal with.
They went so far back. They showed when Yokomato took over the fleet. When they did the whole switch over. They showed the ceremony. And that's when it was starting. And then they showed the Japanese army convincing the people that they wanted the war. They wanted us to attack. They thought if they attacked Pearl Harbor and got it right, that they would knock us where we'd be just unable to fight back. And they almost did. They almost did it. But Yamamoto, sorry. My fault. He did not want a war. He up until the last minute, literally up until the time they were just about to reach Hawaii, he wanted to make sure that all diplomatic things was done. It was over.
Where the message didn't get to the ambassadors yet, they actually had to go through.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Sit in the office and while we were at war.
Yeah, they were in the waiting room to talk to the Secretary of Defense.
Yeah.
And they were sitting in there while they're attacking Pearl Harbor.
That had to be really awkward for the Japanese ambassador, knowing that you're basically declared war on one of the largest countries in the war, and you're just in the waiting room going, shit, this isn't going to be good.
This is not good. How do we start? You start. You go first.
No, but even that though, like, and again, from a history buff's point of view, some of that minutia could bog down somebody that wasn't interested in it.
To look at the backstory, looking at
But even subtle things like the philosophical debate between battleships and carriers. Like, a lot of the old school people really believed in battleships. Like, Japan had just launched the largest battleship ever, which its name escapes me. I want to say Asagi, but that was one of their carriers. And a lot of the brass, if you will, in Japan was really hell bent on making sure the battleships were in these naval conflicts. But Yamamoto and others really understood the power of the aircraft carrier. I mean, even the Germans, one of their fatal flaws was they believed in, like, the Bismarck and these big battleships. Carrier warfare really was. I mean, not only was it brand new, but it favored the bold. If you take a chance on some untested military technology.
Talk about that, the dual thing.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Launching P-17s off of a deck of a carrier.
Yeah.
And to do it, they really went through it in Pearl Harbor where they gutted them. They absolutely, every piece of equipment that they didn't
it's not light
absolutely
enough.
need to
It's not light enough. And
they went so far as to throw machine guns out, and they painted broom handles to stick in the holes where the machine guns were, so the Japanese would think they would be shot at.
Yeah.
They would have cared.
Yeah.
But it was just, had to get so late, and it's just amazing that and it was the first time it was ever done. Ever done. It's not like they practiced on an airfield where they had a line they had to take off from.
This is the length we have to take off from,
and they went over
inches,
a lot.
Inches.
Yeah, and then once they got, I guess it's a little bit different on the carrier because when you launch off a carrier, the ship turns into the wind, so you get a little extra lift when you're coming
up.
You
got a little dip room.
Yeah. But I'm sorry, balls of steel. That's fucking
those guys. Cojones.
So
and it was the Army Air Corps, not the Air Force. The Air Force wasn't even yet.
No, it wasn't a thing yet. No. Which is kind of interesting because although I didn't do my Midway homework, I did watch what was the movie where the aircraft carrier goes back in time to
the Manhattan Project?
No.
It was something like that.
Yeah, but they go back in time. It's the Kirk Douglas and Michael Douglas, and I think it's the Nimitz. The USS Nimitz goes back in time, right before December 7th, 1941, and they can help stop the raid on.
Can you imagine F-14s? Because
yeah, exactly.
F-14s going at zeros. They're like, what the?
Yeah, but
standing still.
But so anyway, just go back to Tora Tora Tora. So do you guys think the makers of that movie made a mistake by going too far down the rabbit hole of making the documentary, maybe kind of not getting to the exciting bits faster?
I don't think so, because in the time, that's what movie was. You were telling a story.
And still, like, that was not even 30 years after the actual, the 1970, right?
Yeah.
So it was 29 years after the actual event. It's not like people
cared about that.
People cared about it. And if you were, 10 or 11 when it happened, and you heard all the stories, and then you're in your 40s, and the movie comes out, and you want to see that. Yeah. At the time, for the box office and everything. Now with kids staring at their phones half the time,
attention span they just can't do it nowadays. They really can't.
Okay, so to that point,
and make lots of money.
Yeah. To that point, speaking of making lots of money, Michael Bay took on Pearl Harbor in 2001 with Ben Affleck, Josh Hartnett,
Kate
Beckinsale, and they took a completely different tact. They wanted to get away from the sometimes tedious, sometimes banal, more documentary feel, and kind of give you more of a fictional, historical fiction kind of fun in a love story. How do you feel about that take on it?
The history part of me, I love the history part, watching the war footage, the detail that they put into it, to, the major scene in Pearl Harbor of when the bombs going through Arizona. Going through every I love that part of it. When I look at Pearl Harbor and how they have the twist in the love story, it reminds me of Titanic, where you have there's two parts. You have historical, which they go into the minutia of detail to try to get everything right. You go in that, but then they come through and they put this love story in that really doesn't have anything to do with the story, I think, but then to put people in seats. To bring, hey, I'm going to bring my girlfriend to go see a movie. She doesn't want to see all this other crap. She's going to want to see the love story. It's going to pull people in.
Well, I'm gonna make one statement here, and because my attitudes on this type of thing have changed, and I got to thank Lin-Manuel, the producer of Broadway shows, the writer and producer of Broadway shows for this. I used to be a real stickler for you got if you're doing history, it's got to be by the book, by the letter, dead as accurate as possible, and any kind of deviation or poetic license, and you're really doing the subject matter disservice. That's how I used to feel. But let's face it, we live in an era now, and you mentioned this already, Chaz. We got kids on cell phones with 400 million different ways to entertain themselves, and our kids don't even have the basic understanding of history of like an 8th grader did back in 1985. And I think if it takes if it takes some rap music or it takes a love story, it takes some poetic license to get this generation interested in, I think, very important historical subjects, well, I'll allow it. I'll go for it. It's better than them not knowing it at all.
True.
Because I think it's even funny that, like, there used to be a big hubbub. I don't know if you guys remember this. There was a hubbub not that long ago where they wanted to get Alexander Hamilton off the $10 bill. All of a sudden, Lin-Manuel comes out with a hit Broadway show called Hamilton. Now all of a sudden, nobody's talking about that. Now they want to get Andrew Jackson off the 20. But Andrew Jackson,
I'm up for that.
I think that
he was kind of a son of a bitch, you know. And if you want to get rid of a Democrat president with a gun-toting Republican woman, I'm fine with it. Let's go, Harriet Tubman. Let's go.
Oh, but also historically, if we want to go historically versus love story, I thought they could have Pearl Harbor, the new one, Tora Tora Tora, Pearl Harbor. When I say Pearl Harbor, obviously I'm talking about the new one. So they could have went more into Dory Miller's story, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character.
Absolutely. True.
He was the first black man to win the Navy Cross.
Yeah.
He was, talk about balls of steel.
Yeah, a cook.
He was a cook. They didn't let him fire a gun at all. His captain, he saw his captain die. He jumped on an anti-aircraft gun with the double barrel, boom, boom, and just started shooting at Japs. I still don't know how. The Japanese. I still don't know how he didn't shoot other ships. Because the way they were shooting, the way he was shooting,
yeah,
was
the ships
the
go back
plane was
together.
flying by and he was leveling the gun at it.
Well,
if
forgive
he's missing, he's probably hitting the other ship.
We'll forgive him if he dinged a couple of ships. But
no, but Dory Miller was an amazing character. Yeah. They touched on him in this, and he got talk to the hot chick for a little bit. They could have went into his story. He ended up dying in World War II later on, but he was the first African American to win the Navy Cross. And
I think it was such an important, to your point, it was such an important story. They talked about it in Tora 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 as well. Yeah. And I think I got to say this, and Chaz hates it when I get political, but we are in such an era where people bend over backwards to celebrate what I consider being kind mediocrity. It just in the face of calling something diversity, but when you have a chance to celebrate an actual hero like this, like Dory Miller, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's actually got a ship in his name coming out in 2026. But I think
long over.
Well, that's how fast bureaucracy works. It's not it's not an indictment of how important it is. It's like that's how long it takes. But to your point, I think you could have done even more about him. To the point where I would even go so far as to say, if Hollywood is always looking for these diverse pictures, I would watch a movie entirely about his life.
Yeah. Well, he ended up dying on a ship later on in the war, and why not? Why not start from before Pearl Harbor? They touched on a little of his life right during Pearl Harbor. They could have, on his next assignment, he won the Navy Cross, but no break for you. Get on the next ship, buddy. You have to go out and get deployed, and you're going back into war. And that's how it was. There was no break.
You were a man. You were a man, and you had to go out and go do your duty.
But now I want to touch on the love story.
Go ahead.
All right. I have a problem with the.
Is this a Charles? Is this a tangent?
This might be a little bit of a tangent.
Okay. Stand by, folks. Charles love tangent.
I want to talk about Kate Beckinsale's character in this movie and the love story. I guess you really like story. I guess you could say, because I compare her to Helen Hunt in Castaway, where in Castaway, Helen Hunt, Tom Hanks, crashes and is on an island for 4.5 years. He pulls his own tooth out with a skate, and he just keeps alive by staring at that picture of Helen Hunt. And then he gets home and finds out that she's moved on, which is fine. 4.5 years is a long time. So you maybe think she'll have maybe been married for a year, dated a guy for a year, maybe got over him in 2 years or so. No, she has a 4-year-old. She literally was sleeping with somebody on his way to the airport. I don't get it. And now to juxtapose with Kate Beckinsale's character, she's hot, by the way. Both women hotter than Tara Reid, by the way. And both better actresses. On the scale, on the Tara Reid scale, I'll give a -2 to Helen Hunt as a great actress and beauty. And I'll give a -5 to, which is good. The negative when it comes to a Tara Reid scale, because, you know, a 10 Tara Reid is really bad. That's Tara Reid. Like a 10 Tara Reid.
Yeah, anyway. Tara Reid is definitely a 10 Tara Reid.
10 Tara Reid.
Yeah. But anyway, and in Pearl Harbor, you got Kate Beckinsale's character. There's a love story there. They set up this love story where it's basically John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John from Grease, where they're talking about to their friends how they met and how everything went.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
So that's
come on, Jason. You know you wanted to.
I did.
So they're telling this love story, this great love story, and how they met and how it started and how she like faked his, he couldn't read, and she let him be a pilot. Oh, hey. Anyway, the 1940s. That's it's war, people. But then they were in love and they see each other in Hawaii. Actually, no, that's before. He doesn't go into her room and sleep with her because he wants to save it for their wedding night because he knows that it's true love and he's being shipped out to go fight in Europe.
Moron.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Dude, you're going off to war. You might not make it back. Homo. Normally, very honorable. When you're about to possibly die, maybe skirt the rules. Sorry.
Anyway, so the guy takes her on this romantic thing, and he professes his love and how much he cares about her. And then they're writing each other back and forth. And when he's flying his missions, you see they're going back and forth with their love letters, and they love each other so much. He gets shot down. A couple months later, she's sleeping with his best friend. That's pretty... not to mention getting pregnant with his best friend. It's love story. Maybe it's a horror story. I don't know. It might just be me. I'm just not a fan of the time heals all wounds, and yes, you need to move on. But both women in these cases, literally, they cried for not even an hour during the movie, and then they're sleeping with another person. So that's my tangent.
Well, I got a theory, and this is going to probably get me in trouble. So, Michelle, if you're watching this, shut it off for about 30 seconds. I have a theory about women and men in love. I think women fall harder, but I think they get over faster than men. That's just my theory. There's no scientific evidence to this.
Maybe it has something to do with how they forget how painful birth is, so they can have another child.
Maybe it's the same part of the brain.
Same part of the brain.
They know somewhere at their root level they need to procreate to keep the species alive, so they got to find the next mate. I don't know, but I don't know. That's my theory.
Yeah,
that's actually a pretty good theory.
It's a pretty good theory.
Pretty good theory.
As we've all loved and lost, but there's probably some angry women out there going, "Are you fucking shitting me?" And
hey, send us comments.
Send us comments. It's okay.
We'll
And everything I said was pretty sexist, though.
Yeah. So. But anyway, all right. So
but I am an asshole.
So, with all that said, did the love story, in your opinion, detract from the fun of the movie? Was it something you could just kind of look past and just enjoy the parts you like, or did it kind of take something away from you?
The love story didn't bother me that much. Ben Affleck's character bothered me a lot.
The outlandishness.
Like, apparently he was the greatest pilot in World War II, and nobody even talks about the guy except for this movie. Like, he went from England to Pearl Harbor. He shot down Japanese. He shot down German Stukas in England. Shot down Japanese. And then he went to Tokyo and bombed those assholes too.
But I think Michael Bay and the writers of Pearl Harbor kind of used him as a device, almost like. And he's a Forrest Gump. Yeah. He's dipping in and out of real history, and
Forrest Gump wasn't real.
No, actually, it's probably almost more like Quantum Leap. Like Ben Affleck was jumping into real lives, like
Jenny. That's another woman.
Yeah, she only came back when she was destitute and had cancer. But anyway, this is not a women bashing thing. This is a war one. We'll do a women bashing with some other. We can do men bashing too.
That's easy. Tara Reid. That's the one thing.
But it was almost more like Quantum Leap. Like he leapt into real lives. Like the scene where him and Josh Hartnett jump into the P-40s and get up into the air. Those are based on two real pilots.
Yeah. When we saw it during Tora Tora Tora, the car that came rushing through to the plane.
Yes.
Same thing with Ben Affleck and Josh.
Oh, they even did like a found footage thing during Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Where the guy
dies.
and the guy, and then the guy dies in the.
So I give them they used some creative license, but they kind of dipped in. They wove a historical fiction in and out of real history, and it's.
For the movie portion of it, I think I would have rather had different characters playing the different parts.
Another one. Kate Beckinsale's character patches up a guy at Pearl Harbor, puts her finger on his his jugular's cut, and they sew him up. But it patched him up in enough time that I forgot how long the Doolittle raid was after, but he got up from that, and he was in the intelligence working on the Doolittle raid. Like that is a little poetic license right there.
Yeah.
I don't think that guy would have probably been out of it, especially if it hit him in the jugular, because you're out of it for a while. That's a pretty serious wound.
All right, so we've kind of talked about the 2 Pearl Harbors. What about the 2 Midways? What do you guys think? Repeating before, I didn't do my homework, so I'm going to let these guys take the lead. So, Jason,
Midway.
You're on the spot.
I'm on the clock.
He's on the hot seat.
All right. So the old Midway. War footage again. They use the war footage in the old Midway, which is incredible. That they got all this war footage and
well, John Ford was on the island. The director John Ford, who directed a lot of John Wayne movies and a lot of other movies, and in the 60s and 50s and 40s and even older, he was a great director back then. He was on Midway, and to your point, they used the footage that he shot.
Yes.
And they threw in some other footage of German planes.
They did. But going from that footage to the actors, the over actors in the planes, it was hokey. It was hokey.
Yeah. What would they use? They used prop planes, obviously just a shell, probably with somebody with a rocking in the back.
It looked like cardboard is really what it looked like.
They had the canvas behind them,
a little smoke
projector.
machine puffing little puffs of smoke as of clouds, and then when they got shot, they would have the little blood capsule and they'd spit it and they would throw themselves all over the place. It kind of took me out. And then when going back with the old Midway, you had subtitles for some. I had voiceovers when I was watching Midway, and this definitely took me out of it. They used voiceovers on all the Japanese, so it was English. They were using English characters on all the voiceovers, and they actually used Paul Frees, which is a cartoon character voiceover he's a man of 1,000 voices, and he did Rocky and Bullwinkle. He did the voices for Boris, and that's all I could think of. You're sitting. Oh, holy Rocky!
That was Yogi Bear.
I know. That's where I thought he was going at first.
Hey there, boo boo. Let's get some bigger than baskets.
All right. So, anyways,
nice Barney Rubble.
You like that one, right? Well done. Anyways, but that's all I could think of during it. So you see the admiral, the admiral for the Japan. I forget what the. Yes, Yamano.
Sorry to all Japanese American friends.
Yes. Anywho,
for any names that we butchered during this,
we're not intentionally insulting, just ignorant.
I just can't pronounce it. Yeah, so every time he spoke, it was in a cartoon voice, and it was just.
I agree. Overdubbing versus subtitling, I think overdubbing is more distracting.
Yes, 100%.
Although I gotta say this, okay, and this is to you, any executives at Netflix are watching this. When did they stop letting you know it was a foreign movie? Remember they used to scan through and it would say foreign movie. Mm-hmm. Now you click on it and it's all subtitles and like we weren't gonna know. Like we're just gonna be so lazy. We're such lazy Americans. We go, I'll watch the.
Hold it. It's not a foreign movie. It's an undocumented movie. Jesus.
Well, it's like they
politically correct.
It's like they don't tell us anymore. Like they used to tell us it was a subtitled movie, and then I'm like, all right, moving on.
A lot of the Hollywood movies on there now.
Yeah, but now they think like Americans are so lazy. Like, I'll watch the Prague movie because I can't hit the remote again.
I can't read.
There's some great subtitled foreign films. Don't get me wrong. Just I want to know about it before I get into it. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
New Midway, I thought it was a great movie.
Oh. Yeah, and to juxtapose both the movies, the old Midway focused a lot on the fleet officers.
Oh yes,
like the admirals and all that. The newer Midway was more focused on the pilots and their story and what's going on with them. Yeah, the Woody Harrelson was in it. And it was a good. The actors. There's so many actors.
I was going to say. Speaking of the older one, it was big actors.
Yeah, big actors for the time. Henry Fonda,
Charlton Heston.
Yeah, Charlton Heston. Yeah, instead of watching the Ten Commandments or Ben-Hur, I watched Midway. A lot more entertaining, if you ask me.
What did you think about the love story that they had in the old Midway with?
It was surprising. The son.
Yeah.
It was very surprising because his son was in love with a Japanese American. Her parents were from Japan, and they showed the
concentration camp.
No,
detention.
Internment camp.
Internment camps. Okay.
Because they were.
Democrat FDR would never put somebody in a concentration camp.
Yeah, and she wanted to break up with him. He still wanted.
Camera is too hot.
So I'm going to say we should definitely use the other camera next time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Love story, yes.
Between
the captain, he's a captain's son, and he was pulling strings to see what's going on with his girlfriend that he wanted to marry, and she was a Japanese American woman. Her parents were from Japan. She was born in America. They were from California.
Yep.
His son fell in love, and it got into it. I didn't expect. I really did not expect it.
I didn't at all.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to get that in depth into that part of it where they talked about how the Japanese Americans were treated, and they were in these little camps, and they weren't allowed to. They were American citizens. Mm-hmm. Her parents her father was very traditional, and he was enrolled in all these Japanese clubs, like magazines and get patriotic magazines.
And what they thought that it was basically the FBI would be investigating, and they think it was some sort of propaganda, and then they would just basically have the CIA or
no, it was FBI.
It was still the FBI at that time. Yeah.
CIA doesn't work on U.S. soil.
Yeah.
But it was they got really. I thought more in depth than I thought they'd ever. I never even thought they'd mention it. Japanese. It was very, but they really got into it, and I enjoyed that part of it. But again, it was more about the fleet, the decisions that were made, the officers, the intelligence, and all that, and they showed some of the pilot stuff later on and got more into it. Like Charlton Heston's character was a pilot, and they got into that. But the new one went really in depth on the pilots, and I really enjoyed that. They showed what they went through, what they did. They'd see their family, and then they'd go off on a ship, and then they're gone for. There were guys stationed in Pearl Harbor, so their families were at Pearl Harbor.
Right, and the news was so slow getting back to family members. I didn't know from day to day whether these people were
exactly
or alive. Especially in places like Midway, where you're middle of a war zone. It's tough to get out an email.
And that's in the new Midway. That's what it was showing. It's showing that they're home, and the wife was there, and they had no idea.
And all the wives would get together when they knew there was an attack or something going on. And then the one of his buddies had died on one of the ships in Pearl Harbor, and he got back. Best, the guy who he was one of the main characters, one of the best pilots. He actually bombed the actual person. Best bombed 2 aircraft carriers in the same day. He bombed they only had one bomb strapped to the bottom of these planes. He hit 2 aircraft carriers. He was responsible for taking out 2 of the Japanese aircraft carriers. That's amazing.
And with Midway, it was showing that the original Midway, it actually went into showing that the bombs, they started going to electrical devices to release the bombs. Yeah. And there was a bunch of them that were faulty. That I don't remember them going into the new Midway.
There was more about the torpedoes.
The torpedoes were the faulty.
That's the one.
They did talk about that in the new Midway. I know.
The torpedoes were more because the torpedoes were more accurate.
Yes.
Because they could drop them and they go and hit the side of a ship.
Yep.
Where the bomb, you'd have to go right down.
Yeah.
I mean,
they literally
about balls of steel.
they literally had just a scope. All right, wait for it.
I'm going this speed.
You got a sea of flak coming at you.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Yeah.
I'm going this speed. If I pull up now and drop the bomb at this angle, back then you had to know math and geometry. Hello, it was crazy. But that best guy, to talk about a little bit more about the history of it, They even show it in Midway. He inhaled, like they got a bad mix on his oxygen because they were up at a certain altitude and they needed oxygen masks, and it was a bad mix and it ruined his lungs.
Yeah,
he did both of those bombing runs on without using oxygen because it was bad.
Yeah, he was grounded.
And then he was grounded after that.
Yeah.
He was responsible for taking out two aircraft carriers. Two.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, and with the old Midway, talking about the old Midway with the bombs, they were dropping the bombs with the definitely not CGI. They were on like strings or something. You could see them waving in the air or something. Like they were made out of cardboard or something.
Well, actually, that's how like old bombs used to flutter when they would drop. Because,
no, but this was like.
I don't know.
All right, so.
I thought they're gonna flip.
I think we're covering lots of great stuff, but as you guys have already seen a few times, bringing the crappy camera gear did not help us today. So I'm gonna wrap up this part of the thing, and I'm just gonna leave it out for you guys to just say, if we could bring 2 of these 4 movies onto our island, which movies are we bringing?
I don't know. Kate Beckinsale is hot. I'm probably it's tough because I do enjoy the first Midway and I love the new Midway.
I like the new Midway better than the old Midway.
Yeah, I think it would probably be the new Midway. I would go that way. Definitely the new Midway.
Yeah.
And then Tora 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 versus Pearl Harbor. Well, if I'm on an island with only you 2 dudes, I probably have to go with the Kate Beckinsale, even though I didn't really enjoy how her character ended up in that movie.
Yeah.
I guess you do what you got to do. Whore. She's definitely not Tara Reid, though.
For the historic, I like the new Pearl Harbor, the newer Pearl Harbor. I know it's like 20 years old now, but the newer Pearl Harbor.
It's only 10 years old.
When was it?
20. No shit. 20. 2001.
Yeah.
2001?
Yeah.
2001, sorry.
Wow.
Jeez.
Oh, also,
old.
I would also like to thank every person that was actually involved in those wars and those battles. Those men and women.
Heroes.
The nurses in Pearl Harbor, they were all heroes. And they were just amazing people that didn't have the technology. They just pulled up their bootstraps and worked their hardest and saved lives. Thinking
about the technology, what they had is they're looking at a vast ocean for a pin drop.
Yeah.
And it is amazing that they were able to do any of that.
Just how lucky, the lucky they were just to find the Japanese fleet. Yeah. It was crazy.
No, but you're absolutely right. All the men and women that protect us back then, that protect us now. Mm-hmm. Thank you for your service, big guy.
There, Charles.
It's too easy to forget the freedoms that we comfortably go through when our biggest problem is if the guy who gave us our soy latte might be thinking racist thoughts. Like, we actually live in a pretty good world.
Yeah.
Come on, and please smash that like button. I know half of you guys are related to us. Hit the like button.
Nobody else is watching this, so you're all friends and family. Please like us, subscribe, share with your friends who are insomniacs and need help. Do something. All right. There's another good podcast. I won't bring the shitty cameras next time, guys. I promise.
All right.
Prost.
Flanche.
Whatever they say.
Woohoo!
I wasn't last.